What do you do when you've got a van that you bought with a set and it's got a lot of writing on it? You don't really need the van. It's not really worth anything. How do you make any use of this? Well, this is one way you can repurpose a good old used van. Let's go to work. So I bought this van with a set and I needed the cab, didn't need the van. This is just a generic dry van. There's nothing fancy about it. It just came out of this odd set that I had the cab I needed. I've had it overpriced on eBay just because of the fees and whatnot. You know, at 35, realistically, it's like maybe 20, 25 bucks, I'd suppose, or really whatever it's worth to somebody else. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to repurpose this van. We're going to give it a new story. What we're going to do is wipe off the letters. What I have here, we're starting with a rag. I'm using good old-fashioned lacquer thinner. I keep lacquer thinner in just a generic jar like this I had from the house. That way I can dip my fingers in it. And we're going to wipe this off. If you don't have lacquer thinner around, you can also use acetone. Right here, 98% acetone. You can buy this at any discount store for about $1 for a bottle this size. We're actually going to use both products so you can see how both of them work. So if you don't have lacquer thinner on hand, you can go to the discount store and get some of this. Now, I'm using lacquer thinner. As I mentioned, I have a lot of it because I use it for other purposes. So that is my primary go-to for a project like this. We'll start out with the acetone first. And I have just a good old generic rag here, nothing fancy. It doesn't leave lint behind, which I kind of like. And we're just going to put some right there on our rag. And then we start wiping. Now see, that's coming up immediately. Eric, will this dull the finish of my trailer? Yes, it will. You can already see that I'm taking up a little paint because the rivets are losing their paint. But no worries. As I mentioned, we're repurposing this trailer, which means we're going to give it a new story. So if you have a layout or something that, well, if you have a layout, I guess that's the best place to put this. You can put it behind a truck and put it in a dry lot of some sort or on a road and give it a weathered look, which is what we're doing here. So actually, I just dipped out of my lacquer thinner out of habit instead of the acetone, so we'll just go back to the acetone. One thing I would mention, it's worthwhile to have a ventilated area. The smell of acetone is pretty strong. Now, one word of caution. Do not get this product on anything that you don't want removed. All the DOT stripes, the silver paint, any lights that might be painted on, this acetone will eat them up and ruin them. It'll take them up. So you do want to be diligent not to get your product where you don't want it, or the product. So here, we'll do acetone one more time and then we'll switch to lacquer thinner. Now if you wanted to be more precise, you could hold this in a tweezer and that would be fine, or even some sort of sharp object wrapped around that rag. That would do it. That would also take it up. Okay. Also, I'm moving my rag around, so I'm going to fresh spots every time. And now we'll dip into lacquer thinner. Now I am wearing rubber gloves, as you can see. I really don't want this stuff on my fingers. I guess the older I get, the more cautious I've become about taking in things that probably aren't real good for you. Absorbing different chemicals through your skin, I mean. I don't think we were designed to have that in us. Now this particular rag does not hold a whole lot of does not absorb a lot of the lacquer thinner, so you can see it's not going very far. So I'm going to kind of pre-wet it a little bit, and it does evaporate, so keep that in mind. There, we'll just kind of loosen that stuff up and then we'll kind of come in and clean it up. we go. Now the worst of it's off, and I mentioned whatever you don't want lacquer thinner to get on will be ruined. Like I left this little emblem here for just a little bit. You can see I got into it and now it's all deformed. Well, we're going to take that off now. But we'll do that when we come in and clean up the worst of this other goopy stuff here. Now we're going to start being careful. It does take a little time to get all this paint up. You could use a different type of rag to aid in taking up the leftover residue. Another thing that works really well, you can get a Q-tip. You could use a Q-tip. It absorbs quite a bit of the lacquer thinner, so it's going to keep things wet longer, allowing you to take more of the paint up at one time. They don't last very long. They fill up pretty quick, but as you can see here, I mean, we came pretty far with just that one. So what I'm actually going to do here is I want to come up here to the front where we've got all sorts of residue left over and some streaks. Now again, we're not going to make this too perfect because, like I said, we have a repurpose idea for this trailer. Okay, we'll discard that Q-tip and we'll get another one. Now you can be as precise as you want. For this particular trailer, I don't want it perfect. I want it pretty clean, but I don't want it perfect. And there we go. You can see all these rivets, the paint's been stripped off the rivets. And then, like I said, there's a few streaks. It's not perfectly clean, and for my purpose, that's okay. You can kind of continue taking this up. Now, this glossy finish that was there previously is now gone. This is going to be a matte or a dull finish, kind of like it's been setting out in the rain or going up and down the road a million miles. What about the doors? The doors on a lot of these dry vans also have some writing on them. There's a way to get those off easy. What you can do is push at the back of the trailer against the roof. Now, holding the body, you'll push the roof and then just slide that door out of its holding place, and now you can handle this a lot easier. Now look at this door. I've already stripped this one, and you'll see that the paint had come up along the door handle or this long bar that uses to close and lock the door, and then over here there's some spots where the paint has come up. I'm not worried about that because it's going to fit in line with the story I want to have, for the story I have in mind for it. Well, what about that pipe that goes up here and locks that in? I'm glad you asked. We're going to take a silver Sharpie. You could use Molotow Chrome. It doesn't really matter. It's up to you. Whatever the look you want. You can come in here with your Molotow or your Sharpie and kind of cover that up and give it another silver look. Now, it won't match the original very well, but again, for the story we want for this trailer, this is going to be okay. Now, for this door, we're going to go ahead and strip it just like we had previously. You can use Q-tips, you can use a rag, whatever it is, to get the job done. Now, as I'm telling you to do all this, it's been my experience that different vans behave differently. Sometimes the letters on the side of the van, the name, the logos, and all that other kind of stuff come up really easy. Other times it's a fist fight and you actually take up the base coat. I really can't help you predict which ones are going to behave really cool and awesome like this one did, and which ones are going to be a giant pain. It's just a shot in the dark. What I have noticed is that the newer runs, it seems like the ink comes up much easier than on older runs that have been around for a long time. Can't really explain that, but that's been my experience. There's really no rhyme or reason. So if you're in doubt, go ahead and start in an obscure spot on your trailer, taking up that logo, so if it acts like it's not going to come up real easy, you haven't poured concrete and you're committed to the project, you can always back away and say, okay, even though that looks just a little bit weird, or in some place maybe on the front or on the back door, you know, you're not fully committed, you can kind of salvage it and go down the road. However, if you're like me on this particular trailer, I really didn't care if I ruined it or not, because the second way to repurpose one of these trailers is just to repaint it. You could easily mask off along this line here and then this line up here. You could easily mask those off, top and bottom, and then just shoot some primer over it, paint it whatever color you want. That's another method to repurpose the trailer. Now, to reattach your doors, we're just going to push on that ceiling. We're going to put those pins back where they came from. Actually, we'll do the bottom first because it's a little longer pin than the top. Down we go, and pop. There we have it. There's one. And here's another. And there we go. If you were worried about this coming up now over time, you can actually open that door, run a little glue on the inside, and then you can rest assured that this thing isn't coming up ever again, or at least until you really want it to. And that's how you can repurpose a van that's got weird writing on it that you don't like. Now, I said I wanted this just a little dirty because I've got a truck that'll match up to this really well. I'll stick it on my layout and it'll look like it's been on the road for 1,000,000 miles. And that'll be a perfect look for this particular van and semi. If this video helps you, tell a friend. Thanks for watching.